Welcome. Good evening. Hope everybody's having a great night. Thank you for being here. This is Anonymous Live. And I no longer have to say, if you're new to this place, then it might be different than what you're expecting, because now it's on its own channel. It should be very clear what we're doing now at this point, which feels good. It's been a lot of work getting this place ready. So much happening every day. Not enough time, which leads me to an announcement I'm going to make, but I'm going to wait a second until a few more people get in here, because I don't want anybody to miss it. Last time we did this, it took a little bit longer than we were used to for people to get here, probably because they didn't have notifications on, or it's a smaller channel. I don't know the reason. I'm thinking maybe because this is a smaller channel and there's not much stuff on it yet, that YouTube is probably going to be slower to recommend this stream, because that's how the algorithm works. It wants to recommend things that have a lot of other content for people, so that after they watch one thing, they can go watch 20 things. That's just how the algorithm works. That's just what they do. I don't make the rules, but it's a guess I'm making as to why it took a bit longer last time and why it was a bit slower, but it's fine. And the great thing is we've got all these calls. We've got about, I think the latest estimate was 225 calls. I see Raymag in the chat. Raymag and Easy have been helping cut down every single call. And the latest estimate they gave was that there's going to be 250 of these, or 225, I think it was. So the point is, we're going to be slowly releasing these individual calls here, which should help out a lot just by uploading them in shorter segments. So I'm eager to get that done. That's like the next big hurdle to get past here. And I am so grateful to have their help, because I don't know if it would ever get done if it were just me. There's just no time. But I'm feeling really good about that. So yeah. I'll go ahead and start this announcement here. I'm afraid people are going to miss this, so I'll have to just be diligent about saying it again elsewhere. But in light of time, I really need to protect this project because I really hate taking down the amount of time I spend doing these short streams. Like tonight's going to have to be another short stream like it was a couple nights ago. We'll go for probably an hour. We're not going to time it, but I really don't like doing that. I want to give you guys something consistent, and I've been trying to find out the right balance for what that looks like, because this isn't my job. I don't make money doing Anonymous Live. In fact, it takes nothing but time and money from me, and so I've really got to protect my time. And so I will be going to once a week doing this stream in an effort to, I think it'll make it easier for people to, first of all, remember one day per week for these streams. And then I think it'll make it easier for me to block off the 2 hours for one night a week than it is for me to do it for twice a week. I haven't landed on a specific day, but I'm thinking Wednesday. So it's like a pseudo announcement. I really want to check this with other people who are contributing to the project, because so much goes into this. It's not just me. It's not just the chat. There's about, I would guess about a dozen people behind the scenes. Some of them are here with us today, like Deanna Krebs, all the mods, Easy Cheesy, King's Pawn, Raymag, Offcore, and many others living in many different time zones. So I want to check this change and make sure that it's not going to screw anything up for anybody, but I'm thinking we're going to move to Wednesdays. And I think that's a good night, because I don't want to do this on weekends when people are out. And I want to do, and Wednesday seems like it's a good night because it's right in the middle of the week. A lot of people go to church on Wednesday night, and when they come home around, it's around the time we would be starting. And so I feel like it's a nice part of the week. It's hump day. It's a hard day for a lot of people. And so I've been thinking about that this week. We will definitely be going to one day a week, at least for the near future, in an effort to keep this project thriving, because it's taking so much right now to get this new channel launched the way it needs to be launched. And I think it'll be for the best. So this is a positive change. It's not going anywhere. And hope everybody understands. I want to re-emphasize how amazing it's going to be having all these calls cut down, because we're going to have different playlists for different topics that people can go into if they're struggling with a particular thing, and find like dozens of calls relevant to their situation without having to fish through a 2-3 hour stream to find something useful or cathartic to listen to. So this is all very good in my mind. And yeah, so I will be, this will be the last time we do this twice a week, and probably the last time we do it on a Tuesday, Thursday. It'll probably be on Wednesday. Stay tuned for more. I will be sure to post in the Anonymous Live Discord about this. Yeah, so I'll try to make it as apparent as possible. I'll also do a community post here so that nobody's... what happened? Okay, there we go. Yeah, so yeah, we're going to be opening up the phone lines now. And last time we hung out for about 15 minutes waiting for someone to call in. It's okay. We don't have to get to a call. We are here to listen. If anybody needs to chat with someone, we can be a listening ear. We had a great conversation last Tuesday after waiting for about 15 minutes, wondering if anybody would call in. And then we had one of my favorite calls. It's weird calling it a favorite call because people are going through difficult things, but this person and I felt like we really connected. I really related to a lot of the things they were saying. So it was cathartic for me too. It was a noteworthy call in my mind. We're going for quality, not quantity, which is the opposite of what YouTube wants most of the time. They want to go, they just want a bunch of stuff. Fortunately, we have a bunch of stuff in the catalog about to come out, so it'll be good. And was there anything else? Also, the reason I'm thinking about Wednesday is because I very rarely have my kids that day. And when I have my kids and I'm doing the stream, it makes it really challenging for obvious reasons. I've got small kids. So I like Wednesday because it's a very easy night for me to do this. And I will very rarely have to, I can't imagine ever having to do a short night on a Wednesday. So I'm thinking about Wednesday. I like Wednesday, but we will be double checking it. And take a look at the chat here. Ever since we moved to the new channel, it's like all mods. The more the merrier. All right, we got some calls coming in. We're going to jump into one. Hello, thanks for calling.
Oh, hello.
Hi. Can we start with your age and a brief intro?
Okay, I'm 19 years old, and I sometimes struggle with communication, and it always kind of just hits me every now and then. It's just like 1 minute I'll be like really struggling with it, and the next minute I'll just sort of be fine. But it always just comes back, and I've always had a hard time keeping a conversation going, or like actually starting a conversation and like getting to interact with people. It's always just been very, very difficult for me. I think the reason is that I think I might have a slight form of ASD, so I'm not trying to in any way diagnose myself. I just, from personal research and from things that I have heard, I feel like that's my main issue.
I see. Well, you sound very articulate to me. Wondering if this is maybe like struggle connecting with other people. Like if you are on the autism spectrum, that's a thing I hear about and have read about from a lot of people sharing from that perspective, that it can be difficult to know how others are feeling in any given moment, and it can be difficult for you to clearly articulate how you're feeling in a way that makes sense to the other party. And it doesn't sound like you have a diagnosis, so it sounds like it's kind of like some suspected autism. But yeah, that was a lot. But what else? What are you thinking when I ask those questions?
Well, yeah, I haven't been diagnosed, and I mean, I've always just kind of had to like plan out everything that I say for almost every possible conversation that I might get in. Like, I think that I might get into one conversation and like try to plan things out, or like try to predict what other people are going to say, and then how I can carry on the conversation. But like, I've always kind of struggled with that still, no matter how much planning I try to do, or like even like especially without planning, like I just have a hard time. I guess like what you were saying, like being able to connect with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't really have or share a whole lot of common interests with other people around me. Like especially in my community college, I don't
I don't know if
really.
you know the rules here, but no names, no locations. We don't want you to dox yourself.
Yeah, I'm not gonna share
Okay,
anything like that.
great. Sorry to interrupt. I get scared when people start talking about college and stuff because I'm like, don't say the name. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, yeah, that's okay. But I like hear people talking about one thing, like they'll be talking about something or something that they were doing or something that they did, something they all seem to like understand and like really enjoy. But me, I like never got into something like that, or like I'm like never been interested in, or like sometimes I've never even heard of. But it is kind of really hard for me to like understand some of the things that people are talking about. It always really has been, and I just always kind of struggle with stuff like that.
Right. Well, that sounds. Yeah. How do I say this? It sounds very ASD. I could see why maybe you suspect you're on the spectrum. What's stopping you from getting tested, pursuing a diagnosis? Is it financial? I know that's expensive. Or is it just like nerves about being on the autism spectrum, or what is it?
Uh, I guess it's mainly financial. Like right now, I don't have a job.
Right.
I'm kind of
You
just living
full-time
off of
student?
uh pretty much. I mean, I go to school like 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you get a job? Even if it's not something you love doing? I mean, it sounds like it might be helpful to know if you're on the spectrum. Then you could get into some. I mean, there's no shortage of autism communities on the internet, and even support groups where you can meet people. And I've heard a lot of people on the spectrum meet good friends that way. And I've just heard that if you are on the spectrum, that the things you're talking about can be very difficult. It can be difficult to connect with others. But usually people on the spectrum, I mean, they don't get along with... first of all, I'm not on the spectrum, or at least I don't know if I am. I've wondered before as well if I am. But I've just heard that because one of the things that comes along with being autistic is that your interests might not be aligned with everybody else's, and so people on the spectrum tend to get along. Not everybody, of course, and there's I'm not saying that you'll get along with every single person you meet, but it seems like a diagnosis might help you take some steps towards meeting people who there might be more potential with. And so, really long-winded, open-ended thought, but the question is, like, could you get a job, even if it's not something you love doing, with the goal of just saving up a couple grand to get a diagnosis or get tested?
Yeah, I probably could get a job. I mean, I had a job back in the summer. I was actually working for a neighbor who has been in the same trades that I am trying to get into. That the same trades that I'm actually in school for right now, and
Okay.
that's how I was getting money for getting started with everything in life, trying to get my plan for the future going.
Mm-hmm. So you're not. Seems like you can get a job. It seems like you're not a deadbeat. It seems like you are motivated. It seems like maybe you've pursued some things at different times of life. Maybe there's a lot on your plate right now, and maybe a job seems exhausting. What is it that's keeping you from getting some kind of job?
Well, the main issue is I don't know where to really look for a job. I mean, I guess another thing I guess is I don't know, like, how you, like, I know some jobs you have to, like, get an interview done, and, like, that kind of worrisome, I guess. Like, I don't want to, like, say the wrong thing or, like, have people think weird things about me, I guess. It's just a worrisome thing, but I guess the main issue is I don't know where to really look.
Yeah. Well, I'm hearing a lot of anxiety in what you're saying too. It sounds like maybe you're pretty anxious.
Yeah, I think that's also another thing I was thinking of, but still, I have no diagnosis for anything, but I feel like it's not only a bit of ASD, but I feel like there's a little bit of social anxiety disorder as well, but it's a little bit less of that. So,
Right. Well, but you're saying the reason I say that is because you're saying one of the mental hurdles for you in getting a job is the nerves you get around uh, imagining an interview process because you don't want to say the wrong thing or look silly. And it sounds very familiar or similar to what you said earlier about if you know you're going to be in a conversation, you tend to kind of go through all the potential things you might have to say and rehearse them. It sounds really exhausting.
yeah, it's just something that I've always just been kind of worried about, just kind of overthinking, I guess.
Hmm. And I'm not judging you in saying that. I'm just trying to, you know, repeat back to you what I'm hearing. You've called in for a reason. I don't want you to feel like you're wasting your time. I don't. There's no judge. I don't judge you. I just want
Yeah,
to.
I understand completely.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is that if it weren't for the anxiety, you might go. Your possibilities for jobs might open up because you might not worry so much about being turned down or looking silly. There's nothing wrong with looking silly, I would say to that. I don't know if that helps you or not, but there's nothing wrong with looking kind of silly. In fact, it's kind of a rush. Like, uh, my friends and I used to do like public pranks when we were teenagers, and I kind of loved looking like an idiot. Um, you know, I also have dealt with a lot of social anxiety. It's different in a professional sense. I don't want to pretend it's not or deflect what you're saying. You know, I believe what you're saying is very real. I'm not claiming it's as simple as going and doing some pranks and getting over your fear of social interaction, because I think it's probably much deeper than that. I also think, like, you know, I'm not an expert, so this is just like one uh, idiot's idea of things that I'm reading right now. There's a book I'm reading by this guy named Gabor Mate. I'll put it in the chat for you. It's not an easy read. I'm also not saying you should read this. I don't even know if it's going to help. But there's one thing I'm thinking of from this book that I don't know if it'll help you or not to hear, but this book is mind-blowing. It's not easy to read because it's like 700 pages, and it's written by this this very accomplished psychologist, clinical psychologist, and he's like in his 80s. He's written like dozens of books, so his books aren't like easy to read. But this book is called The Myth of Normal: Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture. And what he talks about in this book that's so revolutionary is going against the grain of a lot of research in diagnosing people with things like social anxiety disorder, specifically. He covers a lot of ground with this idea, but he seems to zero in a lot on anxiety disorders, suggesting that anxiety is actually a good thing, and that it's something that we evolved to feel in order to solve problems, in order to improve our lives. And so he kind of this guy's like he used to be a doctor, medical doctor, and used to just prescribe people tons of pills. People would come in and with like anxiety disorders and stuff. And he got to this point realizing like nobody's going deep with these people. Nobody's asking people like, hey, were you ever like hit as a kid or like, hurt by your parents, or did you have a near-death experience? Like, and he found that getting to what was beneath the surface often was much more effective for his treating his patients than just pumping them full of pills to subdue a symptom. And he goes so far as to say that anxiety is actually a good thing. And so I put the link for that book in the chat for you. Again, I'm not telling you to read it. Maybe read the description and see if it sounds interesting, but it's not entertaining to read. It's like a laborious 700-page read, but it's blowing my mind. I haven't finished it yet. But that stood out to me as we were talking because, like, I wonder if, you're a young individual and you're coming into your own skin right now. You're doing a lot of training for your future, which I think is great. But my gut says that it would be a loss to let anxiety keep you from putting yourself out there, taking yourself outside of your comfort zone, especially for something like a job interview. And further, I would say that even if you are on the spectrum or not, I would say there's got to be some job out there that's perfect for you. You've got to be great at something. Everybody's great at something. And so I would say, like, maybe you could find some excitement in the journey of being let down. Maybe you could do some meditating on how to get yourself to the place where you're okay sitting in an interview and not being right for it and being okay with that.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. And yeah, everything that you were saying, sorry, I'm struggling to put this into words, but
it's okay. Take your time. There's no rush.
Yeah, everything that you were saying, I do feel like you kind of make a good point.
Well, it's Gabor Mate's point, first of all, assuming you're talking about that. Like, I'm not taking credit. I didn't do any of that work. I just read the book. So it's his point, giving credit where credit's due. That guy's amazing. But I believe him. I mean, this is a guy pumping people full of pills because they came in saying they were anxious. And he was like, no, it's actually like he's now in his 80s and telling people the exact opposite. Like, no, like, embrace your anxiety. That's what happens right before you solve a great problem. Sorry, I didn't mean to butt in, but I didn't want to take credit for his idea.
Right, I understand. And if that book that you were recommending is really as good as you say it is, then yeah, I definitely would be willing to look further into it.
Right.
Might
Self-care warrior from the chat said a while ago, I don't want to get too far from it, if I can just feature this from the chat. Self-care warrior says, autistic neurodivergent here. I have a small community / channel on my self-care server. Feel free to stop by anytime. So that might be, you know, and also on that point, I would say, I don't think you need a diagnosis to be welcomed into a neurodivergent community. I think you could just, like, if in the meantime, at least, like, if you were curious, if you might be able to meet like-minded people there while you wait to be able to save up to afford a formal test, then, I mean, you've got an invitation there. Maybe it's not maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing to just, you know, go in and see how you jive with people, and you could be upfront that you're still waiting to be tested. But I don't think anybody would snub you. It might be an interesting experiment for you.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. I really appreciate that, because I really
self-care warrior.
Yeah, thank you, self-care warrior in the chat. I'll definitely look into that when I get the chance, because I do really want to be able to also get into some other communities. Because, like, back what you were saying before, like, other communities with like minds and like interests. I have always wondered if there were other people who shared the same passions as me. Because, like, another thing I feel like I've been struggling with in actually getting to talk and converse with other people is that since I don't share the same interests, I don't feel much a reason to actually try to talk. And I guess I'm just not sure if there's much a reason for me to actually try to, since there is no common interest.
Well, you've got to have a common interest with someone, because pretty much every interest that exists was invented by some other person. So if you're interested in something, then surely there's other people out there interested in the same thing. I don't know what you're into. Are you into some weird shit or something? I mean, nothing's weird is my point. But, like, what? There's got to be people out there for you that would like the same things you like. What are you into?
Well, I'm kind of into things like metal detecting. I'm into stories, and I actually want to be able to write stories, actually.
Okay.
That's kind of what my dream for the future is at this point.
Okay. Well, those don't sound like crazy eccentric interests. I realize that, I mean, I had a couple grandfathers who were really into their metal detectors, and they would go looking for, like, relics and gold and old coins, and I mean, that there are millions of people into that stuff. So, I mean, I realize that's not like a pop culture thing, but story certainly is, and there's nobody who doesn't like a good story. And the fact that you want to write them, being engaged with a community is a great way to hone your craft as a writer. It's very difficult to, in my opinion at least, been a writer my whole life. I've found it, you know, and it's also, I'm not trying to make like a hot take or anything, because I realize there's been a lot of prolific writers who've been recluses. Nietzsche was pretty reclusive and wrote a lot of weird books. But I think that there's something about community. We're a communal species, you know, and I realize there's exceptions to that. Some people really don't like people and want to just be alone. And then there's other cases, even with people who love their communities. There's even times where you might be really absorbed in a project and you don't have time to be a good friend or be around. Like, I often get so absorbed in projects that, like, I have to apologize to my friends for being missing for a couple of weeks. But the point is that my sense in talking to you is that you might really benefit as a writer from getting to know people and what makes them tick. Because how else do you write good characters if you don't meet interesting people?
Yeah, because I've always wanted to be able to get into some communities. Like, I'm actually in a Discord server where there's a whole lot of other people who actually do have the interests of like writing books. Some people actually are authors in that server, but I've always had a hard time actually trying to converse with them. I guess that's another one of those social anxiety issues that come into play, especially when it comes to something like that.
Right. I'm just looking at the chat there's a bunch of stuff coming into the chat. Chili Bomb wants to know what you're interested in writing about. Some people are asking if you are into board games. I sense maybe some of these people are interested in what you are interested in. So I'm raising some things. I mean, already a bunch of strangers find you interesting.
Wow, that's really something. But I guess to answer those questions in the chat, I do like some board games. I do like things like I do really like things like chess, especially. I've always kind of been interested in that game. Also cards as well. There are a whole lot of other card games as well that I haven't really understood and that I would actually be kind of interested in learning. And to answer the other question in the chat about what I'm interested in writing about is I want to be able to write about, I could go on for a whole long while with this, so I'm going to try and make this as summarized as I possibly can. So what I really want to be able to write about is beings from another world. Like the story takes place on a different planet.
Don't give us your idea. Don't give your idea away until it's made. Somebody might make it before you.
Oh, I guess I better keep that anonymous as well.
It sounds like you want to be a sci-fi writer or a fantasy writer, an adventure writer of some kind.
Yes, that's pretty much it, actually.
Yeah. Raymag says, sell that idea, baby.
Yeah, I definitely intend to go through with that and start making this stuff and publishing it.
Great. So let's get back to the social anxiety, because I sense that's a really big thing that you're feeling, and it seems like it's from what you're saying, it sounds like a big roadblock for you from a lot of progress. I mean, to restate a couple of things, you suspect you're autistic, you struggle connecting with people, and one of the things that might help is knowing if you're autistic, and you can't afford that test right now. So, and you also have some anxiety that keeps you from putting yourself outside your comfort zone and is keeping you from going out on some job interviews. And there's another book that I recently finished called Existential Kink, which is another book I usually talk about when I talk about, I can't help but talking about that one whenever Gabor Mate's book, The Myth of Normal, that I referenced before, comes up. I usually mention them together because they're so similar. But Carolyn Elliott, I'll put that one in the chat too in case anyone's interested. Great book, funny name. Carolyn Elliott is also a PhD psychologist, and she has this great way of describing how to put yourself out there in exactly your situation in that book that I just put in the chat. She says to go make a goal to apply to 50 jobs in the next month, or it's something like that, month, 2 months, something like that, with the goal of being turned down and seeing how many times you can be turned down. Now, not sabotaging it, like doing your best, doing the work, putting your resume together in a professional way, conducting yourself professionally in the interview, trying to get it, but kind of like trying to get off a little bit on how often, how many times you're let down, because it's going to happen. You're going to get let down. But she's suggesting that people gamify it when they're stuck in that place. Turn it into a game. I'm going to count how many no's it takes me to get to a yes. And then maybe you file that number away in a journal or something as a future reminder what it took.
That sounds pretty interesting. Yeah, I might look into that one as well.
Okay. But I want to encourage you to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid of being told no. There's some statistic that is escaping me on how many no's it usually takes to get to a yes. There's been several books on negotiation written about this very thing. And I really think there's something to that idea from Carolyn Elliott, that it can make the letdown a little less intimidating if you just expect that it's going to happen. It doesn't mean anything personal about you. You could be a bad fit for a job for all kinds of reasons. Yeah, maybe one job interviewer is just like discriminating for some reason, and that shouldn't happen legally for any reason, not even just for the most inflammatory reasons we hear about in the news, like people not getting a job because of their skin color or their religion. Like that stuff shouldn't happen, but it's also, I believe it's illegal for people to discriminate in any way, just to like not give someone a job because I just didn't like him. Like that shouldn't, I don't think that should be but it happens. And the point is that like most of the time when people turn you down for a job, I think it's because it just didn't seem like a good fit, or there was another candidate who they felt might be more efficient at the task or the role. And that's not an insult against your character. So what I'm trying to say is, yeah, there's going to be nasty people out there that'll do nasty things, but maybe it helps you to think of it in terms of just like, well, I'm going to find my right fit, and I'm going to put my future in the hands of these people that would be my supervisors if they hired me, and just trust that they know what they're looking for. And if they tell me no, it ain't no thing. And you know, how else will you get to the right thing? When you're out of college, you'll have to go through that process anyway. So why not start with some entry-level positions, some entry-level jobs that aren't like your end-all be-all, as some practice, as a warm-up for the rest of your career when you're out of college and ready to pursue that dream. The stakes would be lower going and getting a job just to have a job. And what better way to practice that?
Yeah, I'll definitely keep that in mind, because like maybe if that really can help me to like prepare and like to actually feel more confident in myself and actually to be able to get myself out there, then yeah, I'd definitely be willing to take that into consideration, and I'll try my best to actually pursue that.
Great. What's one small thing you can do tomorrow that will be a step in the right direction? One small thing you can accomplish tomorrow. So when you lay your head on the pillow, you can say, I did it. And then tomorrow I'll take another step.
That's a good question.
Nothing big.
I guess one small step that I can try and take is to, I guess, just try looking around on some websites and maybe see if there are like any jobs that I could apply for, that I could take some of the skills that I have and try to actually use it out there in the world. And maybe, just maybe, I might actually be able to start working again.
Great. That sounds like an awesome goal. You could do that tomorrow. Maybe you set some kind of goal for how many potential jobs you take note of. Maybe you keep a little list of, maybe you try to get 20 tomorrow or something that maybe would be a good lead. Or something. I'm not giving you the number. I don't know how much time you have tomorrow, but I'm saying like maybe you give yourself a goal so that at the end of the night you're like, look, I did all that, and then the next day you call those people.
Yeah, I'll try and maybe do some research, and anything I find that I'm kind of interested in, I'll try and write that down and try to remember it all.
Right. So Ray Mag, one of our mods, says something really helpful. If you have really bad job anxiety, an entry-level job like Dollar Tree can be great. Low stakes, and you only work 4 hours a day part-time. Small responsibility. And I think that's on point. That's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier. Maybe I used too many words. I probably should have just said that. Thank you, Ray Mag, for putting it simply. Yeah, I mean, there's what better practice than with a job like that? That's just kind of low stakes. So we're wishing you the best, hoping for a good update. Call again anytime. Would love to hear some good news in the not too distant future.
All right, it sounds really good. I'll definitely try to keep everything in mind, and I really appreciate this. For real, I really do. So thank you
Amazing.
very much for talking to me, and thank you everybody in the chat for everything you said.
Thanks for being real and for calling and using this place the way you did. And if you want to revisit anything, the stream will be up later, and the chat replay will be up with it too, so you can revisit what everybody said. I try to feature things here, but I can't get to everything, so it'll be there for you.
All right. Thank you again very much for all of this.
Of course. Take care. Call again sometime. Good night.
Good night.
Beautiful. Wow. You know, I wish it were this easy to talk to people at parties and stuff. Like the anonymity really lubricates the conversation so nicely when people don't feel like they have to report to anyone or answer to anything, and they can be faceless. It never ceases to amaze me how quickly you can get into a really meaningful conversation like that. And I want to take a second to say, one of the big reasons we do this is just to encourage others to do this. Of course, it can be it's difficult to go to those places as easily as we can with anonymity, but you know, I don't do this because I think I can fix people's problems. I certainly can't. Only people can fix their own problems. I do this because I think we need more good friends in the world. We need more people to be willing to go to these places with people. So many times, I mean, everybody goes through shit. Everybody goes through stuff that's really difficult in life. And some people don't know who to talk to about it because we're in a really weird time socially, I would say. And we want to combat that in the friendliest way possible. So that's why we do this. All right, chat, lines are opening again. We'll probably, we might get to, oh boy, look at the time. I might wait here for 2 minutes and see if anybody calls in that time, but it would be a very short call. I can't go much later past 11 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm almost apprehensive to get into another call, but I realize I'm doing a short stream tonight, shorter than usual. Again, for those who missed it, we will be, I said this earlier, I'm announcing that we will be going to once a week on this stream from here on out, at least for the near future. We started at 3 times a week doing 3-hour streams back in March on my main channel, and did I think 50 episodes, and then we went down to 2 times a week at 2 hours. I was doing 9 hours of this a week, guys, when I started. That was quite ambitious. So I've taken it down to 4 hours, and in the recent months, I've had to do so many 1-hour streams because they're on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and those are really actually not the best days for me to do this because I often have my kids on those nights. And so we will probably be moving these to Wednesdays. That's not set in stone yet, but it looks like probably Wednesday will be the day. I will be sure to announce that in the Anonymous live server, which if you're not in the Anonymous live server, the Discord server, it's totally free to you. It's totally open. It's a beautiful place. People just chill in there. They play games. There's a book club channel. People read books and talk about them. And there's even like support channels where you can go and people can voice something in a group that they're going through just to get it off their chest or vent or get another opinion. And we also have one-on-one channels like that as well if you just want to talk to one person, if you don't want to get into a big chat with a bunch of strangers and would prefer one stranger. Of course, you can't go there to think we're going to fix your problems. We're just people. None of us, hardly anyone in that server is an expert in anything. There are some people that pop in there from time to time who at least claim to be therapists and things like this, but that's not what the server is for. It's not none of this is a substitute for therapy. It's just a community. So the Anonymous Live server is a great place to check out. Links in the description, totally free. There's even an anonymous channel in there. The whole server isn't anonymous, but there is an anonymous confession channel that seems to be quite cathartic for people to just post a text thought about something they're going through or a struggle, just to air it out, and people will respond and support each other. It's beautiful. We're going to wind down the stream early tonight, but I will pop into the Anonymous live server now for a short, probably 10 minutes. It'll take me a couple minutes to wind this stream down. Since I can't go the full time tonight, and we're too late to get to another caller, I don't want to start a call and only be able to give someone 10 minutes because that's too short to get to anything substantive or meaningful. So I'll come hang out with you guys for 10 minutes in the Discord server. Links in the description. I'll be there in the voice chat. Hang out for a few minutes. And then this old man's going to bed after just a little bit more work tonight. So thank you all for being here. These streams are the highlight of my week. We used to do these Tuesdays and Thursdays. Next week, it'll probably be Wednesday. I will be sure to announce it officially elsewhere here on the community tab and in the Discord server as well. Thanks for being here, and everybody have a great night. See you in the Discord.